September is the planting season in South Africa, and farmers in the fertile Hex River Valley are celebrating the end of a prolonged drought that almost crippled agricultural production in the region. But on this farm, there is no celebration. There will be no harvest this year or the next. The vines of this once flourishing grape farm are buckled and gnarled, the property vandalized and equipment destroyed. What should have been a pioneering model of farming success has become an emblem of failure.
If someone is actually planning for you to fail, it's a bait, and then you are bound to fail.
There's only one thing here. It is corruption.
With the appointment this year of Minister Toko Didiza to head the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform and its merging with the Department of Agriculture, new seeds have apparently been sown for positive change.
Our hands can't be found in the cookie jar. We need to build an ethical society, and it starts with us.
But a legacy of mismanagement, corruption, and alleged elite capture of land reform remains rooted in the Department of Rural Development. In 2018, the Special Investigation Unit released a damning report on a probe into 148 land reform projects. Conducted on government-owned farms between 2011 and 2014, the investigation uncovered fraud and mismanagement to the tune of almost 400 million rand.
Politics is the art of governance. Politricks, on the other hand, is about technology, whereby basically you bamboozle the masses, you engage in double talk all the time, and ensure that you push your own agenda to a point where you are prepared to cripple the national economy.
Sabelo Sibanda is a legal expert in human rights and land reform. He is also the provincial chairperson of the Pan-Africanist Congress and is based at Parliament.
The political heads, in as much as they're responsible for the policy side of the equation, when it comes to implementation, it's the officials who are responsible for that. But when things begin to go wrong on the ground, the buck stops with the politician. The buck stops with the minister, and the minister has a responsibility to intervene.
Much of the alleged fraud in rural development occurred under the watch of former Minister Gugile Nkwinti. But although the Special Investigation Unit report was handed to President Cyril Ramaphosa in March 2018, according to Corruption Watch, the findings of the 7-year investigation were allegedly ignored or flouted by the subsequent Rural Development Minister, Maite Nkwena Mashabane, who allegedly reinstated officials implicated in farm scams. This prompted Corruption Watch in September to demand an investigation into the abuse and weaponization of disciplinary processes in the department, demanding an audit as well as protection of whistleblowers seeking to expose the fraud.
Government has huge expanses of land, almost 17 million hectares of land, which it is doing nothing with. Government has got farms which are getting dilapidated day in, day out. If there was an element of seriousness about how to deal with the land issue, we should be seeing the proper distribution of this land that is already in the hands of government.
And on many government-owned farms, the culture of rampant corruption continues, where funds earmarked for emerging commercial farmers and rural communities are allegedly being diverted to wealthy Luthuli House connections.
They pretend as though they are doing this for the advancement of the local people, for the advancement of these impoverished people, for the advancement of this cooperative, whereas in actual fact what they are doing is bringing their elitist friends who have been given farms in Mpumalanga, who have been given farms in the Eastern Cape, and now given farms in the Western Cape as well.
One of these farms is called Nervanda in Durance. Special Assignment began investigating the farm in October 2015, when it still held the potential to be one of land reform's success stories and the power to not only change the face of farming in the predominantly white valley, but to make a meaningful contribution to the economy.
I was very excited about the recapitalization program, because for me it meant that our people are going to at last now get their development, that get the fruits, that are being reaped, from their land.
With 28 permanent workers, Nervanda had the capacity to employ an extra 60 workers out of season and 100 during the harvest. But today, it is heartbreaking to see not only what has become of the farm, but the toll it has taken on the workers and the beneficiaries. They are members of the Big Five Farming Cooperative.
The purpose of us acquiring a farm was to just take care of our daily financial things and be rid of all the debt that we had, and assisting our children, even extending to the local farm community that we found here, so that their children can also benefit from what our children are benefiting. For the past 7 years, it has taken a serious toll on our families.
The farm has broken down. Since 2017, there is nothing happening on the farm. And my greatest worry is that the vines are suffering. And obviously, the rot that is going on here has a potential of affecting other neighboring farms also.
On the 25th of July 2013, the Big Five were officially approved as beneficiaries on this farm by the National Allocation Land Committee. This was in accordance with government's proactive land acquisition strategy, or PLAS, whereby private farms are purchased by government and leased over a 30-year period to emerging farmers who are funded under government's recapitalization and development program to make the farms productive and ultimately profitable. But government funding is only released if there is a strategic partner or agribusiness involved to mentor the beneficiaries and implement a workable business plan. If the strategic partner is genuinely committed to emerging farmer empowerment, these arrangements can work, but they are often marred by corrupt relationships between officials and wealthy, politically connected companies.
Government will present a list of farms that are available for beneficiation of the people and therefore advancement of the people. But the government officials, because of this screening process, which requires certain documentation, including business plans, have their own people who draft business plans for their connected friends.
In the case of the Big Five, they resisted the imposition of an allegedly unethical, politically connected multinational called the South African Fruit Exporters, or SAFE, and its BEE partner, Bono, as their strategic partner.
Bono did not do exactly what the department said he was going to do. You understand? He failed to impart the knowledge to us, whether in any sphere. He just kept us out completely. We came here with a development package for the farm workers and their children, and maybe the community at large outside Nervanda. That's what we came here for. So the person who was standing in front of us was Bono to do that. Now we found that Bono came with a lot of fraud.
SAFE and Bono have repeatedly refused to be interviewed by Special Assignment. The Big Five's resistance has cost them dearly. Almost 7 years after they were approved as beneficiaries and lessees, there is no government funding and still no lease.
They told us that we will have 100% funding, 100%. And we couldn't have failed with 100% funding for 5 years. We wouldn't have failed. There was nothing on earth that would make us fail.
And one of the reasons why the Big Five cannot source any funds is because they don't have security of tenure. If they had been given that lease agreement, they would have had the security of tenure, and they would have been able, on that basis, to be able to attract funders.
In 2016, the forensic unit of the Department of Rural Development commissioned a private company called Nexus to conduct a forensic investigation into Nervanda. The final Nexus report found that the multinational, SAFE, and its BEE partner, Bono, were in a corrupt relationship with officials in the department. SAFE and Bono subsequently exited the farm, leaving it in a shambles. The report found that millions were owed to the farm. It recommended criminal investigations be conducted into their conduct on Nervanda and other farms they manage, as well as into department officials who had allegedly violated the Public Finance Management Act. But the report also concluded that the Big Five's allocation to Nervanda had been irregular and that they should be relocated to another farm.
7 years down the line, we're still here. And we didn't come by ourselves here. Officials brought us here. We went through a process and we were brought onto the farm. And all that we are waiting for is for our lease, a 30 years lease that they owe us.
Internal department correspondence shows the department was reluctant to take any action against Bono. In fact, the department has ignored most of the Nexus recommendations, except for the conclusion about the so-called irregular allocation of the farm to the Big Five.
We've been waiting since we've heard the rumors that they want to evict us. They have not delivered the eviction order. Once an eviction order is delivered, and then after that, a judge will have to make a decision as to why.
It is on the basis of the Nexus findings that Chief Director of the Western Cape, Juanita Fortain, has requested that the 2013 national approval of the Big Five as beneficiaries be repealed in favour of a Nervanda's Workers' Trust made up of the 28 farm workers.
There is no government policy that says if you are a beneficiary, you are under an obligation to go on a 50-50 arrangement with the workers in as far as the shareholding on the lease is concerned.
As far back as 2014, the Big Five had first been allegedly pressurized by the department officials to give the workers a 50% shareholding. This was 7 months after their official approval at national level and shortly after they had expressed the desire not to work with SAFE and Bono, requesting instead another strategic partner.
And what the Big Five has been arguing is that if we have to be accountable because we are the ones who have signed on to the documents accepting the farm as beneficiaries, we can't then have people imposed who will not have the same degree of accountability as ourselves.
The farm workers have also been severely shortchanged by the situation on Nervanda.
Nothing. We have no dividends. All that we get are our salaries that we work for every day. But we have received no other source of income like dividends from SAFE and Bono. Nothing has been built or developed as it was supposed to be in the business plan. And everything they bought for the farm, they took back.
They have now had to find seasonal work on other farms, and the situation has deepened divisions between the farm workers and the Big Five.
The relationship with us and the workers, I do not think it's really kosher because you will only hear them when they pass. Then they like to always shout my name outside there, wanting to know what's happening. Because I also said to them, I do not know what's happening. The department has to make a decision as to what exactly is happening.
We've written letters, we phoned, we did everything to the highest officers of this land, to the president, to the minister, we did that, and to everybody who wants to listen.
But the efforts of the Big Five have allegedly been fruitless. In desperation, they have turned to Parliament's Portfolio Committee and Sabelo Sibanda for assistance.
Before you can evict someone, they must be unlawful on the land. On what basis can the Big Five be said to be unlawful when they were placed on the land by government? So what is happening here is the problem, reaction, solution, whereby you create a problem, you react, and then you come with the solution. So in this sense, government, through the departmental officials, has created a problem in the sense that they've made it impossible for the Big Five to work the land. And now, in their reaction, they come up with an investigation, so-called. And their solution, let's evict the Big Five.
When we came onto the farm, this was one of the most beautiful farms. Beautiful. You could see the place and the people also. When the very officials who claim today that we've been here fraudulently, they introduce us to the very workers that they are now busy trying to drive a wedge between ourselves, you know.
Yet unlike the strategic partner and officials in the forensic report who have been directly implicated in alleged criminality, the Big Five have never been linked to any illegal activity.
Nexus forensic report sought to delegitimize the presence of the Big Five on the land. But the Big Five officially submitted their documents and went through the necessary screening processes. There is nothing that I have seen in the Nexus report that alludes to or suggests in any manner whatsoever that there was misrepresentation.
Although she is clearly at the forefront of efforts to evict the Big Five for unlawful occupation, Chief Director Juanita Fontaine herself endorsed the Big Five as lessees and had signed a caretaker agreement with the Big Five in 2013, confirming their legitimacy as beneficiaries and lessees.
It does not make sense for the Chief Director to sign on to the caretaker agreement and then turn around and say it was irregular and it was a fraud. If it's a fraud, then she is part of that fraud. It's either it is a fraud or it's not a fraud.
Despite undertaking to be interviewed, the Department of Rural Development has again failed to respond to Special Assignment's attempts to give it the right of reply.
So basically what we are being told here is that if you are a beneficiary to state land, you have no say in anything. The only way that you will get recapitalized is to follow everything that the government officials are telling you to do.
The Big Five now live in constant danger not only of losing their farm. There have also been escalating acts of theft, vandalism and intimidation.
And if you look at what is happening here, it's very systematic, because if you look at the intimidations, the house breakings. Now I just went around the farm, water pumps for irrigation, are being broken down. Now you are, and if you look at those things, it's things that nobody can sell or do anything with them. It's just, damaging the farm, destroying the farm.
There have been several break-ins of the farmhouse, the most recent burglary at the end of September.
We sleep with one eye open. because you don't know what the next day will bring. Whether while you are asleep or you will be attacked, nobody knows, because now the farm is in the state it is. Now it's like a skeleton.
There are people who are coming onto the farm threatening. 3 weeks ago, I had a confrontation with one of them, who when I asked him what is he doing on the farm, he just stood up. He was sitting under the vines and he stood up and he said, "Yes, you have destroyed people's work here on the farm, and we only give you 2 years to vacate the farm. You are going away."
And to date, the most devastating visual evidence of the allegedly systematic efforts to destroy Nirvanda was a fire that gutted the farm garage, the tractors, essential equipment, and nearly engulfed the farmhouse.
Well, it was a Sunday evening when I received a call from the police. The police officer told me that somebody phoned that there is a smoke in one of the garages next to the main house. Then I rushed, up, and then I could see the smoke from down there. That there is smoking. It looks like it's burning. The fire guys were already here, trying to put out the fire, but still, disassembling their equipment. So as I got closer, it was like fire, big fire going up to the roof. But if you look at the way it bent, these were burning, together at the same time, meaning the person set the fire there, here, and there, because there's no way that a fire starts somewhere and then it grows. But then this one started and then it just bent everything at the same time.
But why would anyone want to deliberately destroy a project that could have been a pioneering model of African farming excellence?
It would not be far-fetched to assume or reach a conclusion that there is a political hand that is being used to destabilize this whole process.
The reason why Big Five has been put to such destruction is that we have refused to be manipulated. We have stood strong and opposed, any form of trampling and undermining. We have spoken out. We stand our ground.
So many other emerging farmers who are caught up in the same sort of scenario. We've got cases here in the Western Cape, we've got cases in the Northern Cape, we've got cases in the Eastern Cape. People who are being victimized as against being protected by government officials.
Some people have been living off this farm for quite some time. Now we have disturbed that. So they have to get rid of us. I'm talking about the officials. But we are not going away here.
I don't think anyone who was basically structuring this whole setup anticipated that the Big Five would put up so much resistance to being imposed upon.